Hello again. Now if you saw my last video you would have seen me build this soundbox which I fitted to my HMV 162 gramophone. Now it's an improvement over some of the earlier soundboxes I've made, like so. That's one of my earlier ones, and it worked quite well. There's definitely room for improvement though. One of the problems is that it's basically too big. Now this is the base of a Pringles tube and it's about 7 centimetres or 7.5 centimetres, which is about 3 inches in diameter, and that's a good centimetre or half an inch more than it really needs to be. So I hunted around for another tube. Now I couldn't find anything with a metal base. It seems that metal bases only come in 2 sizes in the UK, either 7.5 centimetres or a bigger size, but certainly not smaller. But I did find this tube here, and this is a tube of Swizzle's Parma Violets, or at least it was. I've eaten them all. Certainly an acquired taste. I quite like them. Lots of people think they're absolutely disgusting. But anyway, the tube is 6.5 centimetres in diameter, which is about 2.5 inches, and is about the right size. Of course, I can't use the metal base because there's no metal base on this one, so I needed to find something else. And something that I've been thinking about for a while was CD cases, like so, jewel cases as they're known, because this clear plastic here reminded me quite a lot of the sort of mica diaphragm on one of my early sound boxes, and which was also found on quite a few other early sound boxes. That would be my HMV number 4, I think. Anyway, I've had some fun cutting CDs before, and cutting CD cases is similar. Now I used a heat gun and a pair of tin snips, and it did work, but I certainly wouldn't recommend it. It was very difficult to get the temperature right so that it cut without splitting and didn't crack or warp. And there's a bit of the case. So anyway, I managed to kind of disc out of that. Basically, I just drew around that and cut it out, and then I drilled a hole in the middle and spun it on my pillar drill whilst holding some sandpaper up to it to make the edge of the disc a bit smoother. It's a disc that fits pretty much on the end there. It's actually slightly too big, but it'll have to do. And it's got a 3mm hole drilled in the middle so that I can spin it on the pillar drill. But that will be useful for putting through the centre post or centre machine screw, like on this one here. So that's fine. And then I've just got to basically cut this down to size and glue this on. And I'll make the base probably in much the same way by cutting down a CD and sticking that on the back. Now to actually stick this on the front, I'm going to use Sigru, which is this wonderful stuff. I've got several packets of this. These, well, that one and that one, I think came from Maplin in their closing down sale. This stuff is a good year older. Now it's all out of date. This stuff is only just out of date. This stuff is way out of date. So I'm going to start with this and see how I get on. But essentially it's black putty type stuff that dries into a rubbery consistency, and I'm just going to roll out a ring of it, stick it round there, stick that on. Now I may then use tape like I've done on this one, on the back of this one, to basically hold it tight into position. I'll just have to see. But anyway, that's basically what's been going on in my workshop over the last day or two, and let's proceed. Well, I wasn't sure what was going to be best to clean the red marks off. However, I've tried a bit of plus gas which is my favourite fast release dismantling lubricant at the minute, and it seems to work quite well. So I'm just going to give it a bit of a rinse in some soap and water as well, just to clean the plus gas off if any is left. Probably something like lighter fluid would also work, but I seem to be out of that at the moment. Okay, well I need to cut the tube down to size, so I'm going to use a dodge that I used when making this sound box here, and that's basically suspend a pen on top of an object that happens to be about the right size, and then just rotate the tube against the pen. Slightly easier said than done, but with a bit of luck, there we are. Get a nice line all the way around, pretty much all the way around. One other little thing is, because I'm not cutting an end with a nice base on, I mean the base on this is just a piece of cardboard, and I could cut that end, but I'm hoping to make several sound boxes out of this tube as I've only got one. Maybe I need to buy some more Parma Violets as they're so nice. But I'm hoping to make more than one sound box, and so I'm going to start from this end here. But I'm going to use the original cap, just put that in there to give it some stiffness when I cut it. Right, it's cigarette time. Now remember, this stuff's way out of date. In fact, getting on for 18 months out of date. So, anyway, basically just need to join it on like so. So let's give it a go. There's 5 grams in these packets, and I've used it once before quite successfully, but it was fresh. So what do we got? Sort of rubbery stuff, black rubbery stuff. Now I'm still quite hopeful actually. It's still soft and pliable. The plan is to sort of roll it out. Right. Not very consistent, but let's just try squidging it on. Well, essentially that's what I want. It's not perfect, but I can always double tape it like I was going to, basically by taping round and folding over the front. But yeah, it's definitely going to be worth a try. It's not quite as I'd hoped. I was really hoping for the rubber to be more of a layer between the cardboard and the plastic, where it's more sort of filleting around the sides. But it's not a disaster. Well, by the miracle of video editing, it is now about 24 hours later, and the Subaru does look like it's done its job. It's quite firm, not that rubbery, but it has stuck the diaphragm onto the tube. So I think that's probably good to go. So it's time to move on to make the other bits now. Okay, just a few notes on marking out the CD for cutting. Now, when I did the diaphragm, I just basically stuck the cardboard tube onto the jewel case, drew around it and cut it out, and then found the centre hole afterwards. So found the centre hole afterwards and drilled it. Now CD already has a nice centre hole, so what I've got is a pad with the hole drawn on it. So basically put the pad over, or put the CD over the pad there, draw the hole, and because it's nice square paper, it's very easy for me to find the centre to quite a high degree of accuracy. So basically I just stick that over like so, and then tape it into place. And then I can use a homemade compass on the centre hole to actually draw around. And I've already worked out that this is the right diameter. So if I stick that in the centre like so, there is the line drawn around, which is pretty much where it needs to be. I just need to cut that out really, and then I will use a bit of piping and stick it on the back of my soundbox. Right, well this will probably be an exercise in how not to cut a CD, but essentially I'm going to do what I did for my last soundbox. I've got some tin snips or aviation shears. Now you can cut CDs just with this sort of stuff, or these sort of tools. If I sort of cut a bit, you can see it does cut, but you get this sort of cracking here as well. So that's where the heat gun comes in. So with a bit of luck, if I heat the disc up, it will cut more cleanly. And there's lots of surplus material, so there's a fair bit of space to practice on as well. A bit of heat and it definitely cuts better. Well, I've been round it pretty much once there. Well, it could probably cope with being trimmed a bit more, but essentially, there we go. That's a pretty decent circle. That one I'm sure will do the job. Okay, well for my previous design, I used this rather neat arrangement of bits of electrical connector and well, more different electrical connector and nuts and bolts and the like, and it looks pretty good, but frankly it's too big, it's too complicated, it's got too many parts. It would be very difficult for me to replicate it. I don't actually have enough bits to make another one like it, so I needed to find something a bit simpler, and I'd already had another idea actually. And that's basically using the inside of this sort of electrical connection block, which I've used on the previous one, just taking a part of it and actually drilling a hole sort of through it there. And I've just done a little test sample here. So basically, here we've got one that's had a hole drilled through it, and I've tried a couple of different ways of drilling the holes. I've used my bench press, and I've also used a little pin vise to hand drill it. Anyway, I've got some garden wire here, plastic coated garden wire. It's the actual metal bit is about 1.2 millimeters in diameter, and I've drilled a hole through the brass here with a 1.2 millimeter or so drill bit. I had to dull the drill bit down a bit so it wouldn't catch. There's plenty of videos on YouTube about how to drill brass, and I've just put a gramophone needle in the bottom with the screw, and that's basically going to be the rod going up to the centre of the diaphragm. I've been playing around with this idea. Here's another one that I've drilled, bit of wire and a very similar sort of attachment on the bottom that I've previously used, just using smaller connection. And this is the sort of post that goes up to the central hole, so that will need to be cut to size. I'm not finished with this here yet. I've got some ideas to how to improve that, but essentially that's the direction I'm going in. Now this isn't the final configuration, I'm sure, but basically I've test fitted it together. So you can see that I've got a smaller piece of wire now and a couple of plastic beads that just happen to fit over quite nicely. And I've cut this post down to size, but actually it still needs a bit more cutting off. It's just a little bit too long still, and I've only just temporarily bolted this in place. The front's all together now, so I've got the needle holder connected in with some wire, some beads, and I've got the central post all bolted in. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the back. As I previously showed, I'm using a bit of an old CD, and the bit that actually goes on the gramophone is this bit here, which again is very similar to the one I made on my previous soundbox. So basically it's a piece of 21.5mm waste piping, as used in the UK and maybe other countries. I've slit it, I've inserted a piece of copper basically to reduce the inside diameter a little bit, and also it's sort of adjustable by squeezing the copper. And then I've just cut another piece of piping, cut it there as well, heated it up, wrapped it round, glued it in position, and then I've drilled a little hole which is about 4mm from the edge, and screwed in a little screw which I have filed the end down into a peg, and that becomes the locating peg on the tone arm. Right, there it is all together. I've just super glued this on the back here just for speed, and taped it round. I did try taping the front on as well, because it does look like it's coming away from the cigarette a bit, but the tape didn't want to stick, so I'm going to give it a go just as it is and see what it sounds like. Well, I think it sounds pretty good. It's certainly clearer than my previous design, although like it, it's quieter than the original HMV soundboxes. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe.